Thank you for coming. I would like to shift the discussion a little bit toward vessels on our inland waterways. Western Pennsylvania, where I live and represent, has one of the largest inland ports in our country in Pittsburgh, with a lot of boats, mostly tugs and barges on our three rivers. And we were the beneficiaries of a very interesting government initiative a couple of years ago in which the U.S. Maritime Administration made a $730,000 grant to the Pittsburgh region Clean Cities, which was covered about half the cost of retrofitting a single towboat to go from diesel to natural gas diesel combination. So it was about a $1.4 million project, single boat, dual fuel system, decreased diesel by about 60% overall. And they've been monitoring ever since how it's been working, but this is a boat that I think was built back in the 1940s, so it was a pretty old vessel that they were retrofitting to do more work with. So I think it sounds like a great idea. I'm happy we did it to demonstrate that it could work, and I guess my question to the group is, hearing that, is that a good use of government investment dollars at that price to be retrofitting these old vessels? What are some other options in that category, particularly as it relates to LNG? Because I share some of my colleagues on the other side's interest in using LNG more, especially what we produce in Western Pennsylvania. And I do think it could be what Ms. Metcalf called a transition fuel here. But obviously it's all about price, retrofitting versus designing new engines that would require LNG as well. So I know it's kind of a lot in there, but any thoughts folks have on that? It looked like Mr. Brin and Ms. Metcalf both, so maybe we could start on the end with the sole member of my fan club there and then move over. So
I promise we'll promote it. We'll get you some more members. My opinion, and we do have some tug barge members, the American Waterways Operators has a primary inland coverage. Generally what we find in large and small vessels, if you're going to incorporate new technology, it's cheaper to do it at new construction. Retrofitting, I mean, I think it's great they did this project, but retrofitting a 40-year-old vessel just doesn't make a whole lot of financial sense to me, other than to see if it can be done. Now, keep in mind also, vessels on the Great Lakes are not at that 20 to 25-year lifespan. There's some of them up there are 50, 70 years old, I believe. Okay, well, I'm old too, but I don't want to get too old. So it's a different marketplace up there as well. The other thing about alternative fuels on the Great Lakes or electricity is you've got shorter runs. You don't have 5,000 miles of Pacific Ocean that you're having to transit. You've got stops in between that you may be able to integrate a shore-based infrastructure of fuels and or electricity that would be alternatives.
Thank you, Mr. Brin.
Thank you for the question, Congressman. Yeah, this is a topic that's sort of near and dear to our hearts. We've been working with the inland industry, and the inland towboats, it's a very interesting industry, and towboats come in all flavors and sizes. For example, there are what we call unit towboats that might run from a refinery in Congressman Weber's district and drop off some wax barges up in your area. It's a very, very interesting system. You have unit towboats, there are line haul towboats, which push 40, 50 barges at a time on kind of a regular liner service. There are shuttle boats that run up across the river. My point is that depending on the vessel's profile and need and its service, the best solution can vary quite a bit. And so what we found with a lot of boats is what's common, if you take line haul boats out of it and look at the rest of the types of boats, a lot of them do a lot of time actually sitting around. If it's a shuttle boat, they'll be sitting alongside a barge for hours, days on end sometimes. When you get up into the locking river where y'all are, you'll be spending a lot of time going through the locks. And anyway, at that low power, oftentimes these engines need to still idle because the crew still needs instant power if, in the event of an emergency or something. And so, so what we found is a diesel-electric arrangement, while not zero emissions, can reduce engine running hours quite a bit. And then if you add a battery, you can also just shut the engines off altogether, run off battery for a few hours. It can save quite a bit of fuel, and it's, it's just a nicer environment for the folks on board as well. So there are solutions. The key is fitting the right solution to the vessel, and that can work with LNG or diesel fuel.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is, you know, within the government, we always, oh, and I'm basically out of time, so I'll save that thought for next time and yield back to the chairman. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks, gentlemen. Mr. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all members of the